I'm definitely a picker, a scrapper, always sort of traversing the streets. And it's a way of mapping for me to understand a place. My name is Aureen Cohen. I am a local artist. I make large-scale sculptures, public art. I also am a community programmer and educator.
Welcome to week 3 of Maker Month on the Slaw. I'm Stephanie Bria, and with me today is interdisciplinary artist and educator Aureen Cohen. Her most recent works feature metalworking and large-scale public art sculptures. That means you can see them all around town. Aureen, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You make big work. What draws you to work on such a large scale?
It's so hard for me to make small things. I think it's a sort of like machismo personality, like dual personality that I have. And I like to incorporate like a lot of different materials, and it becomes so convoluted sort of material wise and process wise that it only works.
It only works if it's really big.
If it's really big, which ends up being problematic with like storage and things. It's like over Corona, like I actually made the smallest drawings. They were like 5" by 5". I'm like, wow, it's so weird. Like I really enjoy the problem solving that's needed to make things on a larger scale.
So let's talk a little bit about your sort of origin story. What made you decide to become an artist?
Yeah, well, I feel like I have like a sort of art gene. Both my aunts, Ilana and Aura, are prolific in painting and ceramics and sculpture and stained glass. Growing up, I also had an uncle who owned a stained glass company in Georgia. My uncle would send my dad boxes of stained glass, which I still have today.
So what are some things that inspire you as an artist?
Definitely a lot of symbolism within my artwork. I take it from things that I find on the street, random things and meanings, but also a lot through poetry. Working with community especially. I love engaging with folks in neighborhoods and drawing in what they hope to see or stories that create a sense of place for them and then embellishing that.
So a lot of your work, you reuse materials or you're finding things that are maybe tied to the place where you're installing. What sort of draws you? What is your reasoning behind that?
So if I'm on a residency somewhere or invited to make work at another city, like I just immediately go to the streets, whether it's through Craigslist, like following that one Craigslist ad that takes me to some like random neighborhood, and then like I discover all these other things like trash. My partner calls me like a raccoon because I'm just always like digging through things and sort of picking apart or picking up different parts of stories. I don't know, I'm just intrigued by things that are rotting and decaying and finding that sort of beauty within that. And I think it's also a reason why I love to use metal for sure, because it's so readily available with scrap metal and just, the welder's like a giant, like a hot glue gun basically. And I can just like quick zip things together and then build on top of that with other with other materials and things.
Pittsburgh has a really strong metalworking past, and so where/how do you see your place in that?
When I moved here in 2012 and I applied to Carnegie Mellon, I was on the phone with one of the professors and she was talking about my metalwork and about the Cary furnace. I was so drawn because of my obsession with like industrial abandoned buildings and like my spelunking adventures in these abandoned buildings. I was like, oh man, I need to go there. I got to do the Alloy summer residency, where it's like research-based and then you create an installation on site. And I created this huge like stained glass piece. Well, it's like faux stained glass using lighting gels from like theater and stretch that across the girders. And my favorite part of that, again, is talking to the people that used to actually work there on site and talk to them about what it meant, like their pride in working there and in other locations around Pittsburgh, and like what that meant to them and what that place meant to them now and how they saw it as a sort of like chapel. And I was like, stained glass, like that's like, it just immediately went there. And so it was super inspired by that. And,
and you were able to tell that story. You were able to tell their story for them. Yeah.
Exactly. Just sort of like recreate it, like make that happen for them.
Can you tell listeners about, I guess would be your most recent project, Whiteman Park in Squirrel Hill? You did 3 sculptures in conjunction with Allison Zapata.
We replied to a request for proposal from the city to create a sculpture for the park. And whatever it was, the community just wanted it to have some element of glass in it because Whiteman Park, it was the site of an old glass manufacturing plant. So I was really intrigued by that, of course, my history in stained glass. So we designed the sculpture to be the sort of like cascade. There's one main sculpture, which is a bench that has the facets of glass in it, which looks like a sort of waterfall with stones around it. So we used 2 sheets of stainless steel. The drop cuts, we had these, the main sculpture laser cut, and the drop cuts that fell from that, we created 3 other sculptures that represented bugs, pollinator bugs, to go into this pollinator garden. I worked with local kids at the Carriage House School right across from Whiteman Park, and we took our model there and they puzzle pieced together different bugs. And so those are the bugs we ended up illustrating for the park.
The last question, we always end with this, and I never give it to folks in advance so that they can't obsess about it. So you didn't get this in your email. We always end with, what is your favorite bridge in the city of Pittsburgh and why?
And there's this light blue bridge going into New Kensington, and it's just like if you go on a particular like slightly gray, like a grayish day with like a little bit of blue, it just kind of like disappears. I love driving under that one. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. For folks who want to follow along with your work or who want a sculpture in their yard, how can they reach out and find you? How can they see more of your work?
Yeah, you can, I have my website, www.oreencohen.com, or you can follow me on Instagram. That's oco.art. And reach out.
Great. It was lovely to
Awesome.
see you.
Yeah, thanks so much.